Well, that was a pleasant little story.
There are some natures too lofty to bend.
So we have Little Women. Now, Little Women, I know I said I was done with the last year movies, but again, blame this one on the franchise because it's still, because of all the Oscar buzz, I assume it's still playing in certain theaters, and there's a surprisingly liberal amount of showtimes with the movies. So even it came out in 2019, and franchise was like, "Hey, you want to go see it?" And I was like, "You know what? Sure." I did at least want to see it because I heard a lot of critical acclaim. I believe it's still holding true at 95% on the old Rotten Tomatoes. So I thought I'd go check it out. I didn't know much about it going in. I just knew it was going to be like a period piece drama with some lighthearted aspects to it about this. I actually didn't know it was even about a family. I've never read the book that it's based off of, so I went in fairly blind. Going into it, Little Women isn't exactly my kind of film. It's not one that I go out of my way to seek. It's not one that I would typically sit down and enjoy or like play in the background, but even though it's out of my wheelhouse of kind of what I lean towards with film and preference, it doesn't detract from the fact that it's still a really good movie. So getting into it, I'm going to keep this review very brief. I don't have a lot to say about it, just kind of general thoughts on whether or not you should go and see it. It's directed by Greta Gerwig, and the most recent thing that she did that you might know about would be Lady Bird. Pretty sure, again, it's a movie that I have. I own Lady Bird, but I haven't even opened it and watched it yet. The cast is female-centric. Obviously, it's the movie Little Women, so it's plenty of, as they say in the movie, it's kind of just about the domestic life of this family and their trials and tribulations and the different facets of what each of the members of the family want. And it's cast really well. Everybody fits the role. I went back and forth on the fence about how I felt about certain characters. There weren't any that I really loved in the movie. I just was like, I felt pretty neutral about a lot of the characters. I wasn't very invested. Even during the emotional bits, I was like, oh, that's unfortunate and sad, and there's some deep cuts that hit in certain scenes, going into the ideas of loneliness and the idea of, a woman's place in society or how one can get forward. And a lot of it, although we still live in the year 2020, a lot of it rings true today. Aside from that, I don't have a lot to say about it. I thought it was filmed really well. I like how it was a bit jarring at first because there's a lot of time cuts. And it's not until you're a few minutes, and not until after the first couple cuts you start to realize the cinematic difference between what happened in the past and what's happening in the present. But once you realize that there's a different filter and there's different coloring, and you start to recognize the age is also a bit different, then you get the hang of it, and then you start to vibe with the time cuts. But the first scene, I was like, all right, cool, I'm interested. And the first act of the film, I was a little bit iffy about, but by the second and ultimately third act, the film's narrative won me over, and I began to really enjoy it. That being said, other pros, the acting was great. I have no qualms. Nobody seemed to be phoning in their performance or anything. It all seemed very good. The story was solid. It just wasn't one I found myself particularly interested in. And I don't want to use the words I was bored, because I wasn't. I was curious to see how it would end up, but I felt the narrative itself, the movie took a minute for the narrative to find its direction and then ultimately get a resolution. And a few of the romantic angles had me scratching my head. I get it and I see what they were going for, but why? If you'll see it, it'll make sense. But honestly, like I said, there's not a whole lot to say about this movie. It's a good movie. If you like period pieces, really enjoy them, you're probably going to love it. It's a nice period piece, romantic drama with a little bit of comedy and a little bit of heartbreak mixed in. It's the first PG movie I've ever reviewed, and it's so weird because I rarely see movies that are PG anymore. I'll be seeing Sonic though. That's going to be PG. But I so many movies nowadays that are considered cream of the crop are all PG-13 or R, which says a lot about the quality is derived from the more adult matters and darker things. But I'm glad that a PG movie can still get to the box office, do well, and still be recognized in the overall like Oscars and awards and whatnot. So I'll cut to the chase. Overall, I enjoyed the movie. It's not up my alley, and for that reason, my rating suffers a little bit. So honestly, I would just give Little Women a very firm, solid 3 out of 5. Not to say the movie is not great, because it is a great movie. And the only gripes I had were some of the romantic angles between some characters, and the narrative, personally for me, the narrative didn't quite find its footing until early to midway through Act 2, and then from there it was cruising on through, and it was really a sweet movie, very heartfelt. I got into it from there. But because of that, because of my personal views on these types of films, and a couple of the bits, like I said, with narrative and character, it just suffers a little bit. But like I said, this is just very biased. This is my opinion on the film. I'd give it a very solid 3 out of 5. I'd say go check it out. It's worth seeing. However, if you have a short attention span, it is over a 2-hour film. It's I think 2 hours 15 minutes. If you have a short attention span and aren't into films that really rest all of everything on the characters and what they do, then you might not be too down to clown with this one. But otherwise, I'd say give it a go. It's worth the watch. I'm probably not going to buy it when it comes out on video, but I would not be opposed to sitting down and watching it again. I don't think it was bad by any stretch of the definition, but it's just not a movie for me, you know? It's just not the kind of thing I'd go for. When I go for dramas, I kind of lean towards stuff like Manchester by the Sea or 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Perhaps it's because I'm not a big period piece guy, although I do love like medieval, like Game of Thrones, but I don't know. It's just one of those films where it's I can clearly recognize it for the quality that it is, and if I was a fan of that genre, I probably would have given it a solid 4 out of 5, but only because of my very biased opinion, where it's not 100% up my alley, and there were a few things to detract from the plot. I give it a 3. But like I said, go see it. It's worth it, if you're into that type of thing. But anyway, that's my, I think, shortest review I've put out on my channel. That's my review for Little Women. Again, Little Women, 2019. It's still playing in theaters, I think, by the time that I post this. Otherwise, it's coming out on video soon enough. But give it a go. Whatever you thought about it, go down in the comments. And feel free to comment whether you disagreed or agreed. Or if you have any other movies you want me to review in the future. But that's about all there is to it. That was my review of Little Women. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie review that I make next. Probably Sonic. Goodbye, travelers.